Cabinet has decided on a short extension to the current restrictions of alert level 2.5 for Auckland and level 2 for the rest of the country.
Well, hello and welcome to Business New Zealand Policy Roundtable for Monday, the 14th of September. I'm Grant Walker. Well, the government has extended alert level 2.5 in Auckland and decided to keep the rest of the country at alert level 2. Cabinet will review Auckland settings on September the 21st with a view to increase gathering limits in Auckland if it is safe, which would come into effect on September the 23rd. Cabinet has agreed in principle that the rest of the country will move to level 1 at 11:59 on September 21. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern's also announced the immediate easing of physical distancing from today. That's with airlines, buses and train operators, so they don't need to maintain any seating restrictions, but mask use will continue to be compulsory. The Business New Zealand network has welcomed a move to allow border exemptions for overseas visa holders who already hold working visas and jobs in New Zealand. Business Central CEO John Milford says immigration has been a top 3 issue for businesses he's met, and many of the employees are critical workers that the country needs to give businesses the best chance to recover post-lockdown. The key findings of the 2020 election survey were presented at the virtual Deloitte and Chapman Tripp Election Conference hosted by Business New Zealand in Auckland on Friday. This year's survey shows a clear view by businesses that the government has done well in its initial response to the COVID-19 situation, but many are uncomfortable with New Zealand's resultant debt, and business wants a plan for raising economic performance to deal with COVID fallout. Well, joining me now to discuss what a continuation of the alert level 2.5 means for Auckland is EMA CEO Brett O'Reilly. Brett, what are you hearing?
Kia ora, Grant. Look, these are tough times for Auckland. I can't underscore just how difficult the last alert level 3 and the continuation of 2.5 is for businesses here. One of the factoids I've been using, which I got from AT, the Economic Development Agency here, is that the number of unemployed people in South Auckland is equivalent to 33 TY points, and that's just in South Auckland alone. So, sectors like hospitality, retail, really severely affected. And of course, there's all of those support jobs, cleaning jobs that are associated with industry, where a lot of those staff are typically on casual contracts. And so the moment that those businesses aren't able to operate normally, you get just all of that flow-on effect through the economy. So to say it's grim is not an overstatement.
So what's the biggest concern for businesses then that you've been talking to in terms of, to some extent, the extension was inevitable with the cases they've been seeing lately. So it probably comes as no surprise.
Yeah, I was asked by one of the team this morning, what did I think would happen? And I said, I thought the government would extend it for all of those reasons. Through our business helpline, we're starting to see, mental health becoming a real issue. I think there was a survey done by Xero just in the last couple of weeks, which showed that 30% of small businesses were worried about their staff's mental health, and 25% of them were worried about their own mental health. And we're starting to see that with the helpline. I've been working on the helpline during alert level 3 on Saturdays, and so talking to a number of businesses myself, as well as the contact you have. And you can just hear the stress in people's voices. And a lot of the calls we've been getting with the helpline might ostensibly be around a 2.5 issue, but very quickly becomes, I think a lot of business people just wanting to talk to somebody, just get some reassurance around it. And so that's something we're really conscious of. And I think well-being for, whether it's a business owner or a worker, is something that's only going to become more of an issue in the coming weeks.
So it's important that they find someone at least to talk to.
Absolutely, and we've been saying to our staff, whether it's people on the business helpline or on our advice line, when you're interacting with people, if it appears that people just want to talk and just want to have a bit of a conversation, just let them go, because that's a role that we can play in that space. There are obviously a number of programs and tools that we can offer through the EMA and the Business New Zealand network that businesses can access. So I think just I'd encourage everybody to talk to your friends, talk to people that are in business, and just check if they're all right. Because I think everyone will deal with these situations differently, and for some businesses, it's a pretty dynamic and pretty fluid situation.
And only in the last couple of days, we've heard, on top of everything we've been talking about, some landlords are basically saying, right, where's my rent? I want it now. And these are people who've signed personal guarantees. And it's like, well, if the money doesn't come soon, well, we're going to call it up. What do you say to that?
Yeah, look, we've long held the view, with the rest of the Business New Zealand network, the property was going to be one of the trickiest issues to manage. In our own situation, the EMAs, we're a landlord as well. We've got some tenants. All of those tenants are on less than 50% of their normal rent, and in some cases 50% of outgoings as well. It's a really tough situation. In some case, and it will be different everywhere, right? Because some landlords are highly sophisticated organisations, but some landlords will be businesses that maybe have subtenanted their premises. So everyone's under pressure, and it's something we've talked to the government at length about in terms of what's the intervention. And so far, not a lot, frankly. Some tinkering around the edges. So I think it's something we're going to have to be really, more activist about in the coming months. And then you've got the other situation where, and I'm sure this is across the country, but we're particularly starting to see it in Auckland now, where we're seeing closures of retail shops, in situations where it's going to be really hard to find future tenants. We know that the banks are consolidating. We know that we've seen that with a number of prominent retail brands who are having to consolidate. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I completely understand the logic of it. But when you start to look at shopping centres where every second shop is vacant, and very little chance of that landlord probably finding a replacement tenant that can pay that rent, the flow-on effect of that is really significant, both financially and even also from a community point of view. So it reminds me a lot, Grant, of the 1980s. What we saw with some of the Rogernomic changes and just how that changed some of the makeup of communities, and in most cases not in a good way. So I think, this property space is going to need some really careful attention, because the last thing we want is to see, communities where basically retail is decimated, because that wouldn't be a good look. And just talking to the local economic development agencies, they're having to start to think about, well, what do you do with that space? Could you repurpose it as co-working space? Could it actually become residential? Hard to imagine, but who knows?
At the end of the day, I think negotiation from both sides is the word. Brett O'Reilly, appreciate you speaking to us. Thank you.